Hi everybody, Max here from Life to the Max with Mindy Moment number 2. In this Mindy Moment, she did some really cool stuff with potatoes. She's doing kind of a research thing, and we explain to everybody why you need to call your garden a research garden and how that helps you psychologically as well as successfully actually accomplishing things in your garden. She shows you how to get these buckets or these pots that are really big for nothing. So instead of spending a ton of money on a nursery to buy these big pots, you can then get these for free. And she's doing some side-by-side research to show you which way works better. She found a guy in England that was just getting huge yields, twice the yield of potatoes using these pots. So check that out. What else did she have on there? Different ways of either planting them in full pots or half pots and then hilling them up as they go. For potatoes, some good things there. Store-bought sets versus your own. You got some potatoes that are sprouting. Hey, that's a sprout. It's a set. You can cut them up, plant them, and start them. She also introduced we introduced a thing called the Seed Saver Society, and that's where you can learn how to get, trade, harvest, store seeds and reuse them again and again and develop a really great collection of heirloom seeds, non-hybrids that grow the same stable crop year after year after year after year. And that's great because once you get the seeds, then you should never have to buy that seed ever again, and you can then multiply that and share it with others or trade with others to get even more seeds. So it's a wonderful way to approach gardening because you want to have a lot of varieties, you want to have a lot of fun with it, and what I think is you want to have varieties that nobody knows about or likes. If you have purple carrots or purple potatoes, people are less likely to steal them out of your garden thinking, what the heck is this, man? It's not orange. Never mind. Let's go find somebody else's garden to pilfered from or whatever. And that way you're less likely to have people steal stuff. But anyhow, there's some good stuff in that. Hope you like it. Another Mindy Moment. She was going to do some potatoes, and she did a little research, and there was a guy in England, you were saying?
Yes.
Well, there's two things. One, he did some research on there to find out what worked best and versus container versus in the ground. And two, that's exactly what you need to call your garden, is a research garden.
Yeah, always.
Because I've said this before, if you're doing research and you find that something works and you also find something doesn't work, then you have succeeded. Every bit of research is good. So it's a win-win-win no matter what way you look at it.
Either way.
And my sister Mindy is actually doing some research based on his success.
I was trying to find a way to grow potatoes without putting them in my boxes because they do okay in there, but I've heard, the soil just needs to be lighter and deeper, and my boxes are either 6 inches deep or 12 inches deep, and so you're not going to get very much out of that.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to be able to do more, so I started researching different methods and different ideas, and came across one that said that he every year he would get twice the yield in buckets than he got in the ground, and he would plant exactly the same amount of pieces of potato with the same amount of eyes, and he had really good soil in the ground. He had compost, and he had lots of good things that he was doing to his soil. And every year, even when it was hot and dry, he was worried. He says, I think this year the ground's going to do better because these pots dry out really quickly because they're black and they're above the ground, so I'm not going to retain the moisture as well. So that very year he dumped them all out in front of the camera, and he's like, I still got twice the yield in the buckets. And so he says the nice thing about this is when you put compost in your ground, it kind of goes away, eventually. Yeah. But when you put the compost in the buckets, then you're going to be able to dump it out, get your potatoes, dump it out on a tarp. You pull out your potatoes, then you put the compost right back in your pot. So you can use the same compost for several years, and then you add it to your garden as a great resource. But this way you get really high yields out of the buckets. And so I just went to a construction site where they were just planting trees, and they had
Really?
And they just building houses and just planting these.
Oh, that's fantastic. They probably just throw them away or recycle them.
Right.
I mean, you would hope they would recycle them if nothing else.
I just asked the person there, I'm like, can I take these?
It's better to repurpose, so that's great. Go to where they're putting in a subdivision, they're planting a whole bunch of trees.
And he has specs on the thing, but basically in the US, it's 15-gallon. It doesn't look like 15-gallon, but that's what they call it in the nursery. These are 15-gallon trees. Pots that I picked up. Yeah. And some people are going in 5-gallon buckets. Those are usually white though. Yeah. And so these were free, and I use my white 5-gallon buckets all the time for all sorts of gardening projects. But I just wanted to try this because this looks good in the garden. You're not going to look over here and go, what's those white 5-gallon buckets doing there? Yeah. And this is a big area where you have a lot of weeds, and you can see right here we have an irrigation pipe. So stuff doesn't grow there because it's irrigation pipe. So we just covered it over with some composting bags we got for 5 cents, and then put the wood chips over it, so that'll keep the weeds down, and we're going to expand out and do a little bit more and get rid of some more of this weed area.
But you're doing some research of your own.
Oh yeah. So for the potatoes, what I decided is to try, because he fills his buckets all the way up from the get-go. Yeah. And so I wanted to see if that method worked, or down here I've got 3 that are full all the way, and then I've got 3 that I just covered the potatoes and I'm going to hill them as they get green,
Yeah,
and just like you would in the
that's another
garden.
technique that I've heard
And then I'm
about.
going to do my own research to see which ones did better. So
Yeah.
they were all planted the same within 2 days of each other. And I also used potatoes from my storage that
We're already starting to
were
sprout.
sprouting, and
Yeah.
you can see these sprouts are really long.
Yeah.
So on some of them I buried the sprouts, and on some I'm leaving them above the ground. So again, I want to see, does it matter? Is it going to turn
So
green?
that was starting to take.
So that's where I buried them all.
Okay.
That one, and here's where I left some open.
But you can see how it's starting to get a little bit of new growth on there, so that's
Yeah.
starting to take.
Yep. So I've got different.
Is that one starting to grow?
Yep. And so what I've got also is I've written down on the side which potatoes.
Oh, that's so good.
These 2 buckets are potatoes that I bought as sets that are from the store, from the, the grower, what do they call them? Grocery. And, I've got a purple variety and a red in here. And then these are all Burbank russets that I got free from somebody.
Yeah.
And they just had foot-long sprouts on them.
Well, people don't realize that there's a zillion different varieties of potatoes.
Oh, yeah.
There's a Seed Savers Society video I saw on PBS once, and I videotaped it years ago. And they were this one guy had this great barn. He lived in Amish country, and the Amish came over to help him build this amazing barn. And then he stores the seeds in they vacuum pack them and freeze them, and to keep them longer.
Yeah.
And then in the potatoes, they had bins of the different types of potatoes, and they would every so many years they would take
Refresh
out
on that.
and then plant that crop, and then carefully protect
Oh, nice.
the seeds so they don't get cross-contaminated and become an
Well, someone's doing
unintended
that.
hybrid.
Yeah.
And there's organizations that groups and that you can get a part of, and you can start building your own collection of heirloom seeds that are not hybrid, and you can start swapping heirloom seeds
The more
varieties.
people that have them, the less chance they are of going extinct.
Yeah.
And
Well-
they get freshly grown, and so your seeds are fresh.
Oh yeah, you have a fresh batch. Sadly, the normal, I don't like normal, you know that. So normal is, it's got to be yellow corn and it has to be orange carrots.
Well, this is purple potato, so we'll see how those.
Actual
they're
purple. Yeah, I
Dark
saw some of
purple.
those at a ranch store
Purple.
once.
And we
which
saw them
I
in
thought were kinda
Peru when we went down there and did humanitarian.
Oh really?
work.
I don't
They
remember
had-
that.
That's what they grow up. There's these dark purple. Almost
Oh,
black
they were at
purple.
13,000 feet though.
Yeah, they have right there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll see. And I got them planted earlier than I usually do, so I also wanted to see if that affected them. So, some people wait till after Mother's Day to plant them, and I planted mine in mid-April.
Well, that's one of the advantages you mentioned over these buckets is the temperature.
Exactly. If it gets cold, I just pull these inside my garage during the danger of frost, and then I will bring them back out in the sun.
Yeah.
Can't do that with your garden in
And
the
you can do that, I guess, even if these are bushy, you could still extend the growing season if there was an unusual early frost, but then the
Absolutely.
rest of it was back to normal for months. Sometimes you get an Indian summer.
I lifted these all. They were all able. I was able to lift them over here, and so the weight's not going to really change because you're just going to exchange potato for soil, in there, and so.
And it's the light luminous loam soil.
And
it's not the heavy dirt.
The other
rock.
benefit of using these versus a 5-gallon is these can actually expand a little bit. As the potatoes grow, sometimes these will expand and possibly even split, but it's free, so it's fine. But a 5-gallon bucket's not going to do that, so I've seen them pull those out, and they are just rock solid when they dump them out with roots and potatoes.
Just a gigantic clod,
Because
root
they're not
clod.
going to be able to really expand. These will expand, and then that gives them ability actually to push up more. If they can expand, then they can push up, and they'll come up out of the soil. On some of his pots, the potatoes were coming out of the soil, so he covered them with compost as he went. So
the actual potato.
Yes, they were so prolific in there. They were pushing the soil up, and some of the potatoes were pushed up to the surface because they were. It was just interesting to see just wall-to-wall potatoes in this bucket when he dumped them out. So I'm excited to try that this year.
Well, that's a great idea by repurposing the buckets. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So when I'm just driving by a construction site where their new homes are going in, it's not usually right off the bat because they don't put the yards in right away. So I usually kind of
As soon as they start putting
landscapers in there or whatever.
That's a great idea. I'm not sure who's
we were
building
just on a walk,
in our
and
neighborhood.
I saw a
but that's
dumpster,
great
and
idea.
I'm like, I wonder, if anybody's throwing away, because I was on the hunt for these already. I was going to pay.
Oh
$50
yeah,
for 'em.
when people are
And
throwing out
then-
perfectly good stuff, repurpose it. They're happy to have it go to some good, so they don't feel guilty about throwing away perfectly good stuff. Now we're not cheap. We're thrifty, frugal, and downright cheap. So
That's a higher level or a lower level of cheap, I guess.
no, that's a
Well, the
really
thing
good
is,
one.
it just depends what you're able to do with your garden budget.
It's just showing you that the cost is not necessarily the limiting factor if you can
Absolutely.
start doing things inexpensively.
Yeah. So, I've filled up all these pots, and then this is with that sifted dirt, and then this is the wood chips that I got out of the sifted dirt. So I've got the combo right here to show you the two things I get out of that soil.
Fantastic.
So
Awesome. Thanks so much.
come back and see them in a while.
Yeah, we'll try to remember to do a follow-up. If you haven't seen it, then drop us a line. Uncle Max at lifetothemaxshow.com and remind us that we need to to do a follow-up on the potatoes, and we'll come over and do that. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, everybody. There's some great tips there. Another great Mindy moment. We're going to have a lot of really cool ones in the future, and we'll intersperse them in different episodes as we have a lot of variety in each episode to make it very fun, and hopefully you like that. Until next time, Max out.